Hello, my wonderful artists. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to use washable markers as paint. For supplies, you'll need a water dish and a brush and a paper towel. You will also need a thicker paper or watercolor paper if it's available. The first set of markers I'm going to show you will really not work for this project. They're from Ikea and they color beautifully, but they do not paint as nice as washable markers, such as these from Crazy Art. And you can even use Mr. Sketch markers. Those work great as well. One kind of marker that will not work are permanent markers. But these are great to use to add details or outline shapes, and I'll show you that technique at the end of the video. You can find a link to the markers that I used in this video in the description down below. So the first thing we're going to do is experiment with these markers, the Ikea markers. So I've drawn out some color samples here, and I want you to notice that when I paint the water over the color with my brush, that there is not much of a gradient. It doesn't blend very well, and we can still see that bit of marker that I drew on the paper. A gradient is a gradual change of color from light to dark. Now we're going to try these. These are the Washable Crazy Art markers, and as you can see there it says washable, and that's the kind of marker that you're looking for. Now I'm going to use the washable marker to put down some blocks of color. Once I have the color applied to my paper, I'm going to use my brush, and notice I dab my brush on the paper towel after I dip it in the water just to get rid of some of that excess water. And then I'm going to drag my brush across the block of color and pull that brush out to get that gradient, that lighter value at the end. Notice that when I try to pull that pink out, the value is a little bit lighter and it is harder to see. I want you to notice that this red is the same red at the top of my paper. The red gradually transitions from dark to light. The scented markers do not say that they are washable, but I know you can purchase washable scented markers. They do work very much the same though as the Crazy Art markers that we just used. I'm going to do a couple of strips of color here, and then we can paint our gradient. Not only are these beautiful to use as watercolor markers, but they smell delicious as well. As you're working with the washable markers or the Mr. Sketch markers, make sure to dab your brush onto the paper towel. That will help get rid of some of the excess water on your brush and give you more control with the color on your paper. If you leave the water on, it tends to get more runny and move more across your paper with less control. For my first drawing, I'm going to use the Mr. Sketch marker to create a cylinder. When I use the brush, I want you to notice that I'm going with the curve and the shape of the cylinder to give the illusion of the three-dimensional space. And then remember that black line that I drew under the cylinder? That's where I'm creating my shadow. Notice also with the circle, I'm turning it into a sphere. So to create my shadows on the sphere, I'm just pulling in the direction of the shape of the sphere, curving my lines and adding a shadow at the bottom. Now let's try some clouds. When I'm going over the blue with the water, I want to be very careful that I do not mix the yellow and blue. I need to keep a line of separation, otherwise I will end up with green in my sky. These markers are a great substitute if you don't have watercolor paint at home. You can use them to create so many different paintings. I want you to notice that this time I'm using a permanent marker to draw my shape first, and then adding the watercolor washable markers or the Mr. Sketch markers to fill in with color. In this next picture, I'm also starting out with the permanent markers and drawing my details and the outline of my shapes first with those permanent markers. When those get wet, they will stay. They will not move as the washable markers and the Mr. Sketch markers do. Once I've finalized my details with the permanent markers, then I can go in and start adding the colors using the Mr. Sketch or washable markers. The final and most fun step is to use your brush and paint by filling in those spaces using your brush and water, blending those colors together and creating your gradient. Here is one more creation using the Mr. Sketch markers and a permanent marker to create the mountains. I hope you liked this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and subscribe to me in a link down below. You can also check out some of my creations that I don't post videos about on Instagram and Twitter. I hope to see you around soon. Thanks for watching.